Okay, I am making an Easter cake, or a cake for Easter, and I'm choosing to use sort of nutmeg and that sort of flavouring in the cake because it just reminds me of Easter time. Cinnamon, nutmeg, that sort of thing. Right, so this cake, it's like all my cakes. It is super healthy. The ingredients are gluten-free. That's my choice because I'm gluten-free, but you could use any flour you want. I'm going to use half flour, half nuts. I love using nuts in cakes because of their texture. But if you use all nuts in this cake, it actually becomes quite a heavy cake. So I've got some raw almonds, and I'm going to grind them up to make nut flour. You could use any nut you like, actually. I think almonds are great because they actually don't give too much flavour to the cake, and that's what I want from this, in fact. Okay, all right. Okay, here we go. There we are. All right, great. So I've got that nut flour made. Let's start. I'm going to start by adding all the liquidy ingredients. So in this cake, there's 3 eggs. If you've got 2 eggs, it still works actually quite well. But I've got 3 eggs going into this cake. It's a reasonably good size cake because I wanted it to last, and pop some in the freezer, some portions in the freezer. Then I've got about roughly half a cup of extra virgin olive oil. If you don't have any extra virgin olive oil in the house, then you could use melted butter. I wouldn't use other cheaper oils because this cake's very special as it is. And then I'm going to put in, often I put water actually, the same amount of water into this cake, but today I want to make it a little bit more luscious, so I'm using yoghurt. So I'm putting some yoghurt in, but you could just as easily do the same volume with water, and it works really well still. And then I'm adding in, this time, instead of sugar, I'm going to add in a bit of, this is actually maple syrup. I'm adding in some maple syrup. But you could add in honey, or you could add in brown sugar or coconut sugar, or whatever you have in the house. Then I'm going to grate in a zest of an unwaxed lemon. A zest from an unwaxed lemon. I'm using this because the lemon adds this kind of really interesting background flavour to the cake. And it actually works really well with the nutmeg. It doesn't make it a lemony cake at all. It just kind of has, there's this hint in the background of another sort of dimension to your taste buds, really. So I'm just going to zest that off. There we go, let's get that done. I'm going to put the whole, more or less the whole of the lemon rind zest in to the cake. Okay, and then I'm actually also going to grate in nutmeg. If you've got already ground nutmeg, that's absolutely fantastic. I don't, so I'm just going to grind in some nutmeg. There we go, without trying to grind off my fingers, I think. You want plenty of nutmeg because, after all, it is a nutmeg cake and it tastes just divine if it's really nutmeggy. So I want to get a lot of this fresh nutmeg in. Just gorgeous. I did hear that once from another chef actually, if you had a really sore tooth, if you chewed on nutmeg, it kind of numbed your mouth and got rid of the toothache. Anyway, I haven't tried it out, but you can come back to me if you know that's true or not. It's quite funny, really. All right, almost there. Plenty of nutmeg. All right, good, good. All right, so that's all the kind of liquidy and spice ingredients going in. Just going to kind of mix that together a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfectly homogenized at all, just slightly mixed up a bit. You could make this in a food processor. You could just throw everything in, literally throw it all in together, and just let the food processor mix it just for not even a minute, really. Okay, now I'm going to add in the kind of the drier ingredients. So this is buckwheat flour, and this is about 150 grams of buckwheat flour. And there's 150 grams of the nut flour. It's not wonderfully kind of ground up. There are a few bits of nuts still in there, whole nuts, but I think that's fine. that's okay, and it works as well. And then to finish off, I'm just adding some baking powder. I know we've got eggs in as well, adding a teaspoon and a half, but I just want to be sure the cake rises well. So I'm adding in a bit of baking powder. Okay, give that a good mix. Can you hear the birds? It's absolutely amazing, isn't it? It's early evening, and because it's springtime, oh, maybe not because it's springtime, but they're just fantastic at the moment. So they're really, in the mornings and in the evenings, they're just twittering away, and it's beautiful. Okay, the smell coming off this, of the nutmeg and the lemon zest, is actually really good. You can really smell it. All right, that's almost mixed. Now, if you want your mixture, you just need to be quite loose. It doesn't want to be a very kind of thick batter, this cake batter. And if it is a bit loose, you can add a little bit of water in, especially if you've used yoghurt in the first place instead of water. I think actually the mixture's about right. I am going to add a tiny bit of water in to loosen it a little bit. There we go. Nice, lovely. Okay, so the cake tin, let's get that made up ready. This cake will stick if you don't have, if you don't have a non-stick cake tin. And I'm always a bit nervous, even with non-stick cake tins with cakes, so I just always line them anyway. So I thought I would do that here for you. So I'm just using a little bit of oil as my sort of stickiness around the cake tin. Actually, I need a bit more than that. So I put some oil on my hands. I'm just going to make it sticky. And then I've got a sheet of baking paper. And so I'm just going to fold it that way, like that. And then I'm going to fold it this way like that. And then I'm going to fold it that way, like that. Making up kind of like this conical triangle. Okay. So I've got that with the baking paper, and then I'm going to just cut it to get a circle that can sit on the bottom of the cake. There we go. And then with the remaining paper, I'm just going to make up the sides. There we go. Oh, that's not sticking well, so I'll do it the other way around. There we go. It needs a bit more sticking oil, so to speak. Maybe a little bit more around that other side. Okay, so I'm going to get the mixture and I'm going to put it into that cake tin. Okay. Yum. Gorgeous. All right, and I'm going to bake it. Well, actually, it bakes really fast. If it's a hot oven about 180 degrees centigrade, I'll probably pop it in for about, maybe not even 40 minutes. I might check it even after about 30-35 minutes with a little tiny skewer and see if it's cooked. Okay. I've got the nutmeg cake out of the oven, and it's been cooling for about 30 minutes now. So it's cool enough to handle. So I'm going to get it out of the tin, and I'm going to move it over onto a cake stand. Nice. And I'm going to, you could do whatever you like here. You can leave it as is, dust it with some icing sugar, or you can top it with something luscious. I'm choosing to top it with some cashew nut cream that I had in the freezer that I made. So I'm going to top it with that. But you could use natural yoghurt or something like that. That would work also beautifully on top. Yum. So that's a nice amount of that. Cashew nut cream has got a hint of orange zest in it actually, which I think will also go well with the nutmeg. And then I had some apples, so I fried off some apples with a bit of cinnamon and maple syrup, and so I'm topping the cake, finishing it off with these fried apple pieces, which are all soft and cinnamony. So I think once again I felt that that went well with both Easter and a nutmeg cake. Kind of some cinnamon apples, oops, on the top. Now you could decorate any way you like. It's Easter, isn't it, after all? So you could put some Easter eggs on. I've got some little baby ones, which I was thinking maybe I'd nestle in between the apples, but I'm not sure it's going to look any good. Anyway, there's a token gesture for Easter. And that's it. That's the nutmeg cake with a cashew nut cream topping and some fried cinnamon apples. Just going to cut this nutmeg cake open so you can see what it's like inside. There we go.